This right here boggles the mind of a lot of Europeans, especially people from Eastern Europe, because when you look at the American gated communities, it does look like communism in the sense that it's all about equality. Every single house needs to be exactly the same like all the other houses. And you have all these regulations and all of this authoritarianism that comes down from the housing communities that a lot of Europeans don't understand. Like, why would anyone subject themselves to that lifestyle? Like, why would they want to willingly give away so much of their freedom, like the freedom of creativity to paint your house however you want, to build your house however? Why do they give all of that and want to live in a gated community? And the answer to that, I think, is classism. You see, Americans are really great at spotting and talking about race, but they absolutely suck when it comes to talking about class. They don't even acknowledge it. And class isn't just about wealth, it's also about a way of thinking, which is very important. So let's look at some of the questions that this person from Slovakia asked, and I can show you how class plays into the role of living in a gated community in the US. Why do you have all of these sorts of strange regulations? Are your officials so incompetent? Is this due to lobbying from car or oil companies? I don't get it. So there are many types of gated communities. There are the ones where the owner just builds several houses that look the same, and then you buy one and you can do literally whatever you want. If you want to have a garden, that's fine. If you don't want to have a garden, that's also fine. If you want to build another floor to your house, that's okay. And then there are the gated communities that punish you if you don't trim your lawn on time, that don't allow you to even change the shade of paint that you have on your fence. And I assume like these are the ones you're talking about. And these ones, like, you gotta understand what type of person wants to move into one of them. Again, like, they're not willing to buy a house, they're willing to buy a lifestyle. And it's like the people who are concerned so much with what's around them. Like, they want all the neighbors to conform to the standards, right? So already you have like this classist person that thinks they have so much money and so much wealth that they should be able to dictate what their neighbors are doing. And they want to live among other people who think the same, right? So it's not just about the money and the wealth, but it's also about the mindset. So the question is, like, what type of person wants to live in such a place? And the answer is a moral busybody. Only a moral busybody that is rich enough and is highly concerned to what their neighbors are doing would want to live in such a place. And these are the people who are the classists, right? Like, they are upper class bourgeois twats who have so much time on their hands that they want to be concerned with what their neighbors are doing. And in order to filter out the unmentionables, in order to make sure that the poor people don't get it, or people who aren't moral busybodies don't get into their neighborhood, they have all of these regulations. To the point where if you're a creative person, if you're a person with an open mind and you don't want to just be forced in a box, you're not going to move there. That's why they're having it. And these are the same people, by the way, who have a big gate with surveillance cameras, maybe a couple of security guards that patrol the perimeter, and they go into their house and they lecture you about being a bigot because you don't want open borders, or because you care about the crime rates and you don't vote Democrat, right? So this is the upper bourgeois twat who's a moral busybody, is disconnected from society. The things that affect you don't affect them, and they get to lecture you about how you should be a good person. Notice that in these gated communities, except for, I guess, like the video cameras at the gate and the security guards, they don't have metal doors, they don't have bars at their windows, they don't have bulletproof glass, because they don't need to. They trust each other, right? It's just rich folk living among rich folk, so they don't give a shit. But if you go into an average neighborhood, and at least here in Romania, and you look at the ground floor of any apartment building, you're going to notice that people do have bars at their windows, they do have metal doors, because they actually deal with the shit that society has to deal with on a daily basis. So, to recap, the reason they have so many regulations is to filter the riffraff, to filter the people who aren't moral busybodies, to filter the people who are creative. They don't want any of that. Why is there no public transport? Well, it goes back to what we mentioned. Like, they don't want to see the riffraff getting into the bus. Like, people who use the bus are poor people. Why would they want to see in front of their beautiful home the poor folk getting into the bus? Why are there no businesses inside? I mean, he says it's illegal, just why? If I lived in such a place, I'd buy a house next to mine and turn it into a tavern or a convenience store. Is that simply not possible, and is it illegal? In my opinion, this is quite a dumb question because it's so European-centric. Like, here in Eastern Europe, people constantly think about the hustle, like how can I make a little bit more money on the side, how can I earn more? But when you apply it to the American concept, especially to the gated community, it is laughable. The people who live in gated community, especially in the United States, are some of the richest people in the world. The very notion that they would open a kiosk or a small shop, even if it was legal within their gated community, is insulting for them. Their neighbors would criticize and mock them. Like, they would be demeaning themselves if they did that, because they have so much money that opening a small shop within a gated community is viewed like lowering yourself. And again, like, I'm talking about the gated communities where the rich people go, right? For a rich person, like, first of all, like, you open a shop for what, like 30, maybe 40 families that happen to live in that area, because, like, they're the only potential customers you're going to get anyway. You're in a gated community. People from outside the community don't come in to buy stuff from you. It makes absolutely no sense. Even if you were to make, like, some money on the side, it would be considered such spare change for the class of people that happen to be there, that just the paperwork and the taxes and all of that is such a hassle that it's not worth it. Now, there are businesses within gated communities, for example, the ice cream truck, but the ice cream truck goes from community to community. So it has the wider audience, and the ice cream man doesn't live there. You may have the gardening company, which sends gardeners to trim the hedges and trim the lawn or whatever. So there are businesses. It's just like, I just can't imagine, like, let's say a US politician like AOC opening her little kiosk in her gated community. It makes no sense. Like, they're above that. Like, it would be viewed as an insult for them. Again, it's a class issue. They think differently than you and I. Like what for average people would seem like a noble endeavor. It's like, oh, you opened your own business. You're an entrepreneur. For them, it is laughable. Like, for them, it's mocking. It's like, oh, look at how bad Bill is doing. He had to open a shop just to make ends meet. Ha ha ha. The places have front and backyards, but they're mostly empty. Some backyards have a pool maybe, but it's mostly just green grass. Why don't you grow plants in your yards, like potatoes, cucumbers, or whatever? Same thing, can be the class issue. It's like, look at this redneck. Doesn't he have the body to go to the store and buy proper produce? Like, why is he getting his hands dirty? Why can't he hire someone? I guess his family must be starving. Look at him working with his hands in the dirt. Ha ha ha. I'm not kidding. That's literally how snobs are, especially, you know, the people who aren't upper class to the point where, you know, they have their own manner, but they're not low class either. Like, they're middle class. And it takes like a special type of person to go into these particular communities. Not gated communities, but like the ones that are so strict and so authoritarian that every single thing is decided, including what you're allowed to plant or not. And of course, it's the justification that these plants are ugly. So the whole context of like a gated community is that everything you do that's outside of your house has to be for the benefit of others. So in other words, like, your house looks beautiful for the neighbors and the neighbor's house looks beautiful for you. And because of that, sometimes they decide what you are and what you aren't allowed to plant. It's ridiculous. I would never want to live in a place like that that's like literally that authoritarian. Like, obviously every gated community is going to have its own rules. For example, like not playing loud music, not buying chickens or pigeons so that the noise bothers the neighbors. Like, those are some of the things that I can understand. But if you go to the level, like the microscopic level of like, you're not allowed to plant cucumbers and stuff, I mean, that's ridiculous. But it is what it is. And again, like, the Eastern Europeans don't understand it because we do not have this class of people. We did not have like a upper middle class mentality that has formed over decades, or sometimes in the United States over centuries, where you now have like these people conglomerating and forming their own communities that are completely detached from regular folk. But do let me know what you guys think, because I found this to be very interesting. And hopefully I'll see you in the comment section. And if you like this video, please consider giving us super thanks. Take care.